Alright, hello everybody. Today we're going to be learning how to make a menu in Unity. And so, I'm going to be starting off in a pre-made project, but you can use any type of project, 2D, 3D. It will work for all of them, basically. I say basically, but it will work for all of them. So, we're going to start off with making a UI canvas. So basically what a canvas is it is an area where your UI will show up, basically. You don't always have to use a canvas, but it's a lot more steps to get it to work without it. And so I'm going to make my canvas scale to a very certain screen size. So I'm going to do the 1920 by 1080. And that's just going to hit that 16 by 9 aspect ratio better. If you're making a game based off, for example, a mobile game, you want to make sure you scale with phone sizes compared to a computer size. But for now, I'm just going to be using that one for this tutorial. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave the canvas name the same thing. If you're going to use multiple canvases, make sure you name them different things. But for this tutorial, we're only using one, so it will be called canvas. So I'm going to right click on the canvas and I'm going to go and click on UI and panel. And so I'm going to name this panel main menu panel, mainly because we're going to use multiple panels for this main menu and I want to make sure that I have them named correctly. So here we're going to go to color. And I'm going to make sure this color, the opacity, this A, is at 255, so it's fully not see-through. We can't think of the word for that, but yeah. And right now, it just uses a very basic blank background image. I actually have a custom one that I use, so I'm going to go ahead and drag it into this source image. And so you can do that with any image you want. All you have to do is add a PNG into your project window. You'll click on it, click texture type, and sprite, 2D, and UI will work for all of them unless it's multiple sprites in one image. Then you just want to click that sprite mode and make it multiple. But for what we're doing right now, all we need is that. So now we have our main menu panel. So I'm going to select it, right click on it. We're going to go to UI, text, and we're going to be using the Text Mesh Pro. If you click on any of the Text Mesh Pro options without having it installed, it's just going to tell you if you want to import it. All you have to do at that point is just hit yes. And I'm just going to make it, size it up by hitting T. I can easily mess around with the transform of it without having to use these or type in the number itself. So I'm going to make it go about that size. That works for me. I'm going to go to our font asset, hit the little circle after the word, and here's going to show all the pre-put font in Unity. You can also add your own font by dragging it into Unity as well. But for now, I'm just going to use some of the pre-made ones. And so I'm going to start with all of my title ones are going to be out of the Roboto font. And I'm going to go ahead and just name this game name. And so if you wanted to try to auto size, you just have to remember right now that minimum is 18 and the max is 72. You can go ahead and change that if you know that auto size is going to be a fit all size for all yours. But for now, I'm just going to put in my own font. So I'm going to try 215, and that seems like a good size. So I'm going to hit bold. I'm going to change the color to black because it helps it stand out. And then alignment, I'm going to just align it to the middle and center it better. And so I can click on the game tab, and this is how my font is going to look right now. And so you can get a lot more fancy with that, but for now, just for the basics, I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I'm also going to go ahead in this inspector and rename the title, the text to be called title main menu. And that just lets me know this is our main menu font for the title. So I'm going to go back to our main menu panel, right click on it, click that UI button again, and this time I'm going to add a button. And I like to make my buttons 300 width, 100 height. I just like the way that looks. Again, you can go ahead here. You can change the color to whatever you want. For me, I think I'm going to keep it white. And if I wanted to, I can go ahead and add a custom image to it. So for example, I have that nice little image there. And here we can see it's not that big. So let's try doing 600 by 200. And that makes it a little bit bigger. Again, when you get an image you like, you just kind of have to go ahead, mess around with the sizing of it, move the positioning around, and just kind of see what you like with it. So I'm going to move this up to position 150. I'm going to name this start button. And then I'm going to open it up in our hierarchy, click text, and I'm going to name this start. So right now I have black on like a really dark purple. So we want to make sure color theory. So we use bright colors on dark backgrounds. And then here we can easily go ahead, zoom in a bit, and just kind of mess around with the positioning, the size. So maybe I want this a bit bigger. Let's try 150. Again, go back and forth between it. I think that's a bit too big. I'm a little picky when it comes to stuff like that. And so I think that's pretty good at 100. You easily move around this yellow bar. That's just the outline of where your text is going to try to fit into. So I'm going to keep it there. Keep it 100 font. Put it there. And then I'm going to go to our font asset again. And I'm going to use the Bangers font for any of our buttons. I think that font just works best for it. I think that looks pretty good. You can always go here. You can add some underlay, lighting, glow. But I think for now, I'm just going to leave everything basically the same. And then I'm also going to go here. And I'm going to leave the highlight color the same because it's a light highlight on a dark background. Let's test it out though. If I hit play, it will put it to the correct size. And then I can go ahead and try highlighting, and turns out I was wrong. It's not that bright. So let's go ahead and let's change it to like a blue color maybe. Go hit play again. And again, mess around, see what fits best for your theme. So I like that. That's nice contrast. Lets the player definitely know you're highlighting it. So I'm going to keep that. And then I'm just going to duplicate this button 2 times. Because I know for sure I want 2 more buttons on my menu. I want a settings button. And then I want a exit button. And so I'm just going to go do that. And then all I have to do now is go to text, change start here to settings. And then we're just going to lower that position from 150 to 0. And I see that's a bit too much or not enough. So I'll do negative. Let's do negative 50. And then I'm going to go here again. And you see that needs to be fixed with the font size for a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and do that in a second. Go here. We're going to name this to negative 200 or 250. Yeah, that looks like correct spacing. Just want to make sure you're spacing correctly. The colors kind of blend in there, but I think it's fine for now. And I'm just going to go here, text, and we're going to name that to exit. So, as we see, the settings button here, the font's a bit too much, so we're going to go, let's try making that at 90. You can see that fits it much better compared to the other one and keeps it nice and big. So, what we're going to do is we're going to close up this menu panel. We're going to click on canvas, and we're going to make a brand new panel now. We're going to go to UI, panel. We're going to call this one settings panel. And so here, I'm going to make this one white and make the opacity all the way in. And we're going to go ahead and actually we're going to make this one black. And we'll see why in a second. I'm going to right click on settings panel, click UI, and we're going to click panel again. And we're going to leave this one the same name for now. And I'm just going to go ahead, drag our background into it, change the opacity again. But here, we're going to go to left and put it at 500. And then right, put it at 500. And now we have a nice rectangle. Again, it all depends on the type of game you're making and how you want to design everything. But for now, I think this works best for what I'm wanting to do. I'm going to click on Settings panel. We're going to click UI, Text Mesh Pro. We're going to go to Scenes tab. We're just going to move this all the way up to the top. And we're just going to go ahead and drag this to fit this panel as best as it can. We're going to call this settings menu, just so the player knows what type of menu this is. Again, keeping the same font that we're doing, same coloring. And then we could just mess around with that size. So let's try 150. That's a bit too big. 100. Try 120. And that one works perfectly. Alignment. I like it centered and in the middle. We can see how that looks. Again, feel free to edit this as much as you like. We're going to call this one title dash settings. So now we know. Right click on that again. UI. And we're going to add just one button. We're going to call this exit so we can close our settings panel when we're done with it. And actually what we could do is we can click here, Control C, click on settings panel, Control V to paste it in. And maybe I should have gone with the exit button. So let's actually do that really fast. There we go. So now we have our exit button that we were using previously, and we're just going to lower it a bit more compared to where it is on the other one. And what I will say is your settings menu can do whatever it wants. You can do a volume, you can do changing graphics. So if you want to see a more in-depth settings menu, feel free to leave that in the comments and I'll gladly do that. And so now let's give these buttons some functions. So we're going to start with our settings panel here. So we're going to go ahead, set active false this main menu button or panel. We're going to click on exit button. And when you scroll down in the button, you have a couple different options. We have interactable that makes it so the player, if the player is able to click it or not, change any of the buttons, change the transition. So for example, I'm using color, but if you had like a custom animation for your buttons when you press it or some different sprites, you can easily go into those. But what we're looking for is that on-click list area. And so we're going to hit the plus button twice because we're going to add two different options into this. The first one, so when you click it, you can drag in any object into it and have a function activated via it. So for example, I'm going to drag in our main menu panel and our settings panel. So right now it says no function. So when I press it, nothing's really going to happen. But if I click here and I go to game object, there's an option called set active bool. We're going to click that for both of them. And basically what's going to happen is when I hit that exit button, the main menu set active is going to be set to true and settings is going to be set to false. So what that means is this is going to get unchecked here and make it not show. So let's test that out really fast. We hit play. You highlight it here, click it, and then there you go. It did exactly what we wanted it to do. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to swap our scene to show the main menu panel. And we're going to click on settings. And we're going to do that again. We're going to hit those two buttons. We're going to drag in that main menu panel. Go to function, game object, set active. And then we'll click settings panel, function, game object, set active. And make sure you check one of them, depending on which one it is. And so that's why it's important to name your panels, because if they're both just named panel, you're not going to really understand which one is which, and it's going to be a little bit more complicated if you have to go back to it later on to add or remove something. So it's always important to just take some time to rename them now. So now we can go back to hit play. We can test that out again. So we hit settings. All the different settings we want will be in here. Change your volume, change the graphics, change any controls that you have. You'll hit exit and it'll be saved. So right now we have our start and exit buttons, but right now they do nothing. So let's give those some functions. So we will have to do a little bit of coding, but it's very short when it comes to these two buttons. So we're going to go click in our project. We're going to go to create, C# script, and I'm going to name this menu manager. This script's going to control the start button, the exit button, any of the pause buttons, stuff like that. So I'm just going to double click it and we're going to let that load. So this is how the very basic script looks. We're going to go up to the top underneath using Unity Engine and we're going to type using Unity Engine.scene management. And this is going to allow us to access any scene loading options we need. So we're going to get rid of the void start and update. We don't actually need anything to load at the beginning or to constantly check if it's being updated. What we're going to do is we're going to make a new function called public void. And I'm going to name this first one start button. And this start button, what it's going to do is it's going to do scene manager dot load scene parentheses. And so there's a couple different ways we can do this. For what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a number into that, and that's going to be our scene build index. So I'll show you what that means in a second, but for now just remember the number 1. And we're going to also go ahead and do that exit button. So we're going to do public void exit button, and it's very important you name these something recognizable and that they're public, because we're going to need to be looking for them in our buttons later on. So you want to make sure it's public so we can actually see it, and something that we can recognize right away so we can easily assign it to the correct button. And here we're going to do a couple different things. We're going to add a debug.log, and here I'm going to put in quotations exit game. debug.logs, just an easy way to test if your script's working when you do a button press or anything like that. And that's just going to pop up in your console every time you activate this function. And then also we're going to show the correct way to close the game. And it's just going to be application.quit. It's just telling the game, the application after you build it, to quit it. So we're going to click Control S to save. And we're going to go back to Unity. It's currently taking a second to load, but here we go. And we're going to save our Unity as well. So I'm going to close our canvas for a second. And I'm going to click in our hierarchy. And I'm going to go right click, create empty. And I'm going to call this menu manager. You can add this main menu script to any place you want, really. But because I'm going to be using this later on for a pause button, I'm going to put it in an empty game object so that when I close when I go to a new scene, this menu manager can follow along later on. Right now, it's not going to do that because we haven't added that to the script, but later on, again, if you guys want to see how to make a pause menu, leave that in the comments and I'll gladly be able to show. So now we have our main manager, menu manager with the menu manager script. We're going to open up that canvas again. We're going to go to our start button, look for that on click list, click the plus. We're going to drag in the menu manager object, click function, and now we can see we have menu manager and we're going to see start button. So right here. So now I know where I got to assign it. We're going to do that same process with the exit button, and we're just going to look for that exit button function now. Right there. And so, before the script works, what you're going to want to do is you're going to click File at the top of your screen, Button Settings, and here we want to make sure that we add all the scenes we want access to into these scenes in the build settings. So, we have at scene 0 our menu. So that's the first scene that's going to load when the player starts the game. So you want to make sure that's at the top. And then at scene 1, we have our outdoor scene or whatever other scene you want the play button to, or the play scene to be. And so remember that number 1 that we put. So let's say we had 4 more scenes. It'd be 2, 3, 4, 5. And so now our script's only going to load number 1 when we hit play now. So we're just going to exit out and let's hit play and test it out. So we're going to start with the exit button. So we're going to open up our console here. Right now there's nothing in there. No errors, no logs, nothing. We're going to hit exit. And this debug just lets us know that we have clicked the button and it points out the text. So now if we were in a regular build, hitting that button would close that build out. And now we're going to hit start. And now we are in our game. And so this will go into whatever game you have made already, whatever scene you had, and you can easily change that number from 1 to be level 2, for example. If you want to see how to make a save system where the player will continue based off whatever last level they are, again, leave that in the comments and I'll gladly be able to help show that. So I'm going to hit escape and hit unplay. And so that is basically all we have to do to make a very simple main menu. It can be easily remade or recolored. Just remember these few steps with the buttons, and that is all you need to do. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments, and I'll be gladly able to help with any errors. Thank you, and have a nice day.